Hey guys, what's up? So the disaster management series keep on continuing, and I hope you have watched the previous two videos. If not, you will not get anything out of this video. तो पहले वो दोनों देख लेना. This is the part 1.3. This is presented by me, and this is the YouTube channel. So here we go. And like always, if you have any doubt or any query or any request for me to make a particular video about any particular thing, I know you have been telling me a lot to make on reading comprehension, but it will take some time, don't worry, but it will come out just 3 months before the examination, and it will be launched on the 1st of May. So please let me know if you want me to make it and launch it on the 1st of May. So you can please comment below the video on the YouTube like always, or on the Facebook page. This is the Facebook page, facebook.com/myname .official. Anyway, so we start. We'll deal with the first. It will be quite a boring slide, but it is very important, and one question in mains this year will come from this. So structure for disaster management in India. It is also called as the hierarchical organization of disaster management in India. So basically there are two institutional structures, though they are the two major pillars there on which the disaster management stands. One is the National Disaster Management Authority, which is now the all-encompassing authority. Other one is from the previous acts, that is the National Crisis Management Committee. It still functions. So NDMA is at the center, SDMA is at the state, and DDMA is at the district level. NDMA is by PM, SDMA by CM, and DDMA is by DM. And then there are, although the overall ministry is the home ministry for all the disasters, but there are different disasters, so there are different ministries which are specific to those disasters, yet home ministry is the nodal authority in any disaster. So they are the ministries like Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It will deal with the biological disasters, especially like say anthrax outbreak is there by some bioterrorism, or let's say H1N1 outbreak turns into disaster epidemics, so that will be dealt by Health and Family Welfare. Similarly, you have civil aviation, so that will deal with airplane related disaster. Then you have Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Forest, that is same ministry, MOEF. It will deal with chemical disasters, like there are certain let's say some Bhopal gas tragedy, like methyl isocyanate has been sprayed in major part of the nation, or some earlier there used to be various gas like phosgene, mustard gas, etc., which are used in the world wars. So something like that if released, then it can cause a lot of chaos. Then you have Department of Atomic Energy, which directly functions under PMO, Prime Minister's Office, and it deals with the nuclear disaster if it might happen. There is only 2-3 nuclear disasters in the world, like Chernobyl in Ukraine, then there is 3 Mile Island in USA, then recently there are Fukushima in Japan, then 1945 Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they are very few and far between, but if it happens, then Department of Atomic Energy will take care of it. So as I've already told you, the overall guidance is of the Ministry of Home Affairs, while the nodal, which is the nodal ministry, and there are specific ministries under it. Then the structure is hierarchical, like most of the structures in government, and it functions at 4 levels, like most of the functions in government: center, state, district, and local. And each and every one of them has their own unique importance. You cannot say that this is more important than that, etc., etc. Each preceding level, that is the before, will guide the activities and the decision making at the next level. Obviously this is how hierarchy will function. So center will decide what state has to do, state will decide what district has to do, district will decide what local community has to do. And like always, it is a multi-stakeholder setup where there are various stakeholders, these 4 being one of them, but there are others also: civil society, NGOs, medias, those which are affected from disaster, victims, their rehabilitation, etc., etc. So each and every one of them are involved, and there are relevant ministries and government departments and administrative bodies, etc., which are involved in this long drawn process of disaster management. Now earlier we used to have post disaster relief kind of a scenario. There was not much prediction, and we just used to do whatever happened and then we used to respond to it. So we were reactive. Now we have turned proactive. Very big difference, and this is lead to the paradigm shift. Paradigm means marked shift in approach towards the DM. DM is not district magistrate, it is disaster management. So now we have shifted to pre-disaster preparedness mitigation. What do you mean by mitigation? See, there are certain diseases which cannot be controlled, like cancer to a large extent cannot be treated, but you can mitigate, that is you can decrease the side effects of cancer. Similarly in diabetes also, it cannot be treated to a large extent, but you mitigate the disease, that is you control the disease, you control the side effects, you control the dangerous outcomes. This leads to the risk reduction. So this is called as the proactive approach of disaster management. And obviously hazards are inevitable, but the disasters which follows it will not be inevitable, and society can be prepared to cope with them whenever they occur. Obviously I have told you in these 3 videos, and we follow a multi-pronged, multimodal, eclectic, stakeholder approach, community approach, holistic approach, comprehensive approach, whatever you want to say, all mean same thing. And this is done for total risk management, a very important word, TRM. This can be a short note. What is total risk management in disaster management? There are two aspects of total risk management. One aspect is the preparedness, mitigation, etc., while other is a developmental aspect. So you develop the better predictive tools, better strengthening, better resistance, better resilience, and the disaster will not impact it much. So these are the two aspects of total risk management. First is the comprising prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, etc., while the other will be initiating developmental efforts which will be aimed towards risk reduction and mitigation. So this is called as TRM. Then we have the Disaster Management Act of 2005. Basically it was done to provide effective management of disasters, and it leads to institutional mechanisms. Trust me, nothing is more important than institutions, and it's the institutional building. Strong institutions with good work ethic and efficiency and effectiveness can lead to drastic change in the scenario, and this leads to the drawing up as well as monitoring the implementation of disaster management policies, etc. And obviously it needs to have interdepartmental coordination, because there are lots of departments and administrative bodies, and all those combined together leads to prompt response to any disaster situation. This is extremely important, and as I've already told you, it leads to establishment of NDMA under chairmanship of PM, SDMA under CM, and DDMA under DM. And in various part of the countries, district magistrate can also be called as collector or deputy commissioner. You must have heard DC, DM, etc. So all these three names, that is deputy commissioner or district magistrate or collector, all these mean same thing in different parts of the country. Now the act further provides for two different things. They are executive committees. What do you mean by execution? So the policy will be given to them and they will be responsible to execute them. So one is the NIDM, that is National Institute for Disaster Management. It provides for capacity building. Capacity building का मतलब होता है personnel training. There might be some 6-month diploma course in disaster management, something like that. Something needs to be there which has to be implemented. Then there is National Disaster Response Force, and it has for response purpose obviously. And then you have to have very specific role. We have to have what is called as niche role in today's world. So you should know what your role is. There should not be huge overlap between roles, and the local bodies or the local communities knowledge should be used for disaster management, and that should be combined with the technology. So technology plus total plus traditional knowledge will give you effective DM. Now what does National Disaster Management Authority do? Before I tell you what it actually does, so please remember, no need to remember each and every slide or each and every word which comes in the next slide. You just need to get a feel of it. उससे क्या होगा? Whenever some questions will appear, you will be able to eliminate wrong options in UPSC prelims. It will help you in that. Plus, as well as you will able to write good answers in the main examination. So this is the entire purpose of this exercise which I am telling you. So there will be, whenever an act is drafted, so there will be a lot of points below it, so don't get bothered about that. So now we have the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA. So it was established in 2005-06, obviously after act came, and its mandate is to obviously lay down policies, as अभी बता ही चुका हूँ, approve the national plan whatever comes, plus interdepartmental coordination obviously. Then it has to lay down guidelines for state, obviously the delegation function, or since it is higher in the hierarchy, so it has to do it for the lower level. Then it lay down guidelines for the different ministries, departments, plus their measures are also integrated. This is extremely important. And finally the plan all develops and all, and then it coordinate the enforcement. Enforcement one time game hai, but implementation is a long term process, so implementation is also needs to be there. Then it need to recommend provision of funds for the purpose of mitigation obviously, and then it needs to provide support to other countries if the government of India decides, and then it can take any measure for prevention of disaster, absolutely any measure which it may consider necessary. So this is how policies are written in government or at the state level. And then finally it will lay down the broad policies for function of NIDM. Uska jo mandate tha, that was capacity building. Now what is the composition? Actually I did not wanted to include this slide because no need to remember this at all, but there are certain like chief election commissioner or how the members of election commissioners are selected. So in that case there are specific committees or 2-3 members where there is leader of Lok Sabha, leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, prime minister, etc., etc. So just to give you a feel of how organization structure and hierarchy and election committees work, so that's why I included this. So besides the 9 members which are nominated by Prime Minister, then there is who is the chairperson of the authority. The organizational structure consists of a secretary and 5 joint secretary, which includes one financial advisor. Then there are 10 posts of joint advisor, under secretaries, assistant financial advisor, etc., etc. So this is how usually the hierarchy is organized. Then we have the National Executive Committee. What does this do? So National Executive Committee is constituted under DM Act of 2005. What is the role of now National Executive Committee? So it will just help the NDMA in the performance of its function, nothing else. So this will help. This is more towards the execution side. NDMA is more towards the policy formulation side. The execution means implementing the policy directives on the field, both in letter as well as in spirit. So now NEC has been given the responsibility to act as a coordinating and monitoring body for disaster management and to prepare a national plan and finally monitor the implementation. This is extremely important. Usually the policies look good on paper, not so good in the field. So you need to monitor their implementation. And just like NDM and NEC, we have SDMA and SEC at state level and union territories level, obviously. So then you have the District Disaster Management Authority. It functions under the direct control of DM or DC. Here DM means District Magistrate or Deputy Commissioner or the Collector. And it is responsible for planning or for coordination and for implementation of disaster management. PCI बहुत simple होता है, planning, coordination and implementation. Then it can examine the construction in any area in the district and it to enforce the safety standards. मतलब you can't just construct 20 floor building without being approved by DDMA. It will really helpful. Otherwise, the building might collapse from small earthquake of 5 magnitude. And then it also enables in the arrangement of relief measures and it responds to the disaster at the district level. Now NIDM, वैसे तो मैं रोल बता चुका हूँ, capacity building. So capacity building means training and etc. So it will help in development of training modules, research, development and undertaking documentation, preparation of journals, research paper, books, etc. It will organize training program to create manpower, to generate personnel who can take responsibility in the time of disaster. Then it undertake and organize study courses, conference, lectures, etc. So it is a very important back end kind of a job. These pictures usually never come into the limelight, but they are actually building the backbone of the disaster management. And similarly on lines of this, we have the National Disaster Relief Force. So we have the response force. So we have the State Disaster Response Force as well. And there are various other agencies like Civil Defense, Fire Services, etc., which are also at the disposal of DM, District Magistrate and Disaster Management, and then they can utilize as and when necessary. Now this is a very important new concept which is called as the Incident Response System. Basically अगर इसको 3 लाइन में define करना हो, it is a very highly flexible system where only required section might be activated. जितना ज़रूरी है उतना ही करो. If the entire district is destroyed by earthquake, then you need to have large machineries. If only a part of it is destroyed, then you need to have relatively smaller machinery being activated, and it totally depends on the need and magnitude of disaster. So it is highly dynamic and it can be adjusted according to the situation. Now there are some pre-designate officers which needs to perform specific duties. This is very important. This is called as SOPs or standard operating procedures. And it is very important to avoid confusion in the time of crisis. किसी को ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि ये उसका काम है, ये उसका काम है. There should not be neither any overlap nor any gaps. So there should be perfect synergy and there should be a comprehensive understanding of what each other's role is. So the system of incident command system has been adopted to address the shortcomings and critical gaps to deliver effective response in DM, that is disaster management. So now this IRS, what are its features? There are various features of IRS. I cannot tell you each and every one because it will be too detailed for a class like this. But the first feature is management by objectives. So you need to know what are objectives, what are aims of the policies which you are working on, so that you can understand the government policy as well as the directions including relief code, evacuation procedures, etc. This is the first thing. Then you need to establish incident objectives. So this is the second thing. Then you need to select the what is the appropriate strategies which among all the strategies available through which these objectives can be best managed. And finally the performance of tactical moves like assigning the right resources at the right time, at the right place, and the right quantity. And then again I'm telling you, this is the key important feature, monitoring of performance and the implementation. Then there are various other features like unity and chain of command. It should not be breached at under any circumstances because already there is a lot of confusion. Then there is transfer of command, it is called as delegation. Then there needs to be certain flexibility, though chain of command or hierarchy needs to be respected, but there needs to be organizational flexibility as well. Then what is the area command, what is span of control, what is area of responsibility, personnel accountability. Then there needs to be integrated communication, information management, etc., etc. These are hugely powerful words and they can make good answers look better. Then these are the final thing for today, that is list of activities which are identified as of an immediate nature according to this act in disaster management. The first and the foremost thing is the drinking water supply, because let's say there is an earthquake and then the water gets contaminated. So not only earthquake is killing the people, but many diseases might also like typhoid and etc., etc. There are lots and lots of disease, cholera, etc., which are totally waterborne disease. You can have lots of diarrhea. So first thing first, drinking water supply needs to be restored. So there need to be repair of hand pumps, wells, etc., etc. And then there needs to be replacement of damaged pipelines. There should not be no contamination allowed. Then second thing is roads, because roads are extremely important for the relief to reach there. So any bridge needs to be made, there needs to be washed out portion of bridges, very common. So it needs to restore the connectivity immediately. Then the need of pipes for creating waterways and for repairing of embankments, filling up of potholes, etc. Then you have the irrigation. This is also important because usually there are dams and all, or the canals which get damaged. So the immediate repair of that is required. And then there is repair of weak areas in case if the water comes out flooding. Then obviously health, then repair of damaged approach roads towards CHC, PHC, that is primary health center, community health centers, etc., etc. Then finally the community assets of panchayat, like village internal roads, street lights, schools, each and everything under the sun is the community assets of panchayats. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So I'll make the 1.4 the last video. This will be the last video of disaster management, and the reading comprehension is on its way. So let me know if you want me to make, or I can also make on DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy plus Fundamental Duties. So either this or this or this, you can let me know which you want me to make on the Facebook page. Do let me know whichever is the most wanted video, I'll make that. So thank you for watching the video. Have an awesome day.